Okay. How are we all doing today? Okay. Previously, I taught you guys on understanding. Which everybody here knows that the vocal range is just basically one of the major classifications to know in your voice type, or understanding the biology of your own voice. Okay. So now some of you didn't really get clarity. Some of you really didn't understand, or very few of you though really didn't understand the concepts. Now, firstly, I'll start by saying this. Now, I will need you guys to be conscious of the piano application you're using. Okay, if you do not have a visible keyboard with you, please be very much aware of the piano app you're using. Now, your piano application should be able to do this thing I'm about to do. Now, if your piano app cannot do this, you see this thing I'm moving around. See how the cursor is moving around. Look at the top part of the screen. You see the part that is moving. Now, if your piano app cannot do this, if you cannot move that part of the piano so you can see other octaves on the keyboard, then there's a problem. Okay, now this is the lowest I cannot even pronounce. I can't even sing it still. So this is supposed to be the lowest. Now if you cannot move from this to this, take it up the octave, take it up, 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 so you get C8. Now if you cannot do that, then you downloaded a very chaff keyboard. So your keyboard application should be able to do all these things. Okay, very important. It should be able to do all these things. So if your keyboard app is not doing this, it means you didn't download the fair enough keyboard application. So please go and download the fair enough keyboard application if that cannot be done. Okay, so because I had a challenge with somebody who said she could not move around the octaves and stuff. So please go and download a very good piano application that can take you around the piano. Okay, so now let's get back to nitty gritty, or to the chase. Now, vocal range, basically, in a layman term, okay, what it means is knowing your highest and your lowest notes. Okay, knowing the highest notes you can sing as a singer and knowing the lowest notes you can sing as a singer. That's what the vocal range means. What is your highest note as a singer and what is your lowest note as a singer? Okay, that's all about what the vocal range basically talks about. How high can you sing right now and how low can you sing right now? Now, if you guys remember, I gave a very written statement or a label of an approximated, take note of that word, it was an approximated range of every singer. For instance, I told you that the bass singer has a vocal range of the C2 to F4. Yeah, now what that means in essence is that was an approximated value. I'm not saying that if you go below the C2, you are not you should feel depressed. Okay, some bass singers can actually go as low as the A1. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I can actually exceed the F4. Okay, but my point is, the C2 to F4 was just an approximated range for a singer. So it is possible that in case you're a bass singer, it is possible that you can actually sing lower than C2. And it is possible that you can actually sing higher than F4. Okay? But what I gave you guys was just a written label of understanding the lowest and the highest notes for different categories of voices. Okay, now I told you guys something that Beyonce has a vocal range of E2 to A6. Okay, she has a vocal range of E2 to A6. She went below the vocal range of the written statements I gave you, which was E3, and she went higher than A5, which is A6. Okay, so it's possible that you can actually have very unique vocal range that is not in sync with the written label or the written statement I gave for the vocal ranges. Okay, so now that is cleared, let me just move on to chase. Okay, so now let's try to find out how we can discover every single person's vocal range. Remember, the vocal range is knowing your highest notes and your lowest notes. Yeah, so now let's try this. Now let's find out what your lowest note is as a singer. Okay, be it guys, be it girls, every single person. Let's find out what your lowest note is as a singer. So we'll start from C5. We'll go from C5 to C2. Okay, we'll drop from C5 to C2. So we're going below. Okay, so we have. So remember, we're trying to find out what your lowest note is. So after this exercise, please write down the notes you considered to be your lowest note. Okay. la, sol, fa. Wow, this is really low. I can't even sing it. I think my lowest note should be G2. Yeah, that's actually my lowest note. So I've found out what my lowest note is. My lowest note is the G2. So I'm already writing that down. My lowest note is the G2. Okay, that's my lowest note as a guy. That's my lowest note, G2. Okay, so that's my lowest note. So everybody, find out what your lowest note is. Find out what your lowest note is. If you're a guy, maybe you can go lower than G2. Probably you can get to like E2. You can get to C2. This is E2. So this is C2. I can't sing that, okay, because it's really, really low for me. But my lowest note is the G2. So if you're a girl, probably your lowest note might be like C3. So probably that might be your lowest note, C3. But whatever your lowest note might be, if your lowest note might be B2, anything that might be your lowest note, basically, just find that out, okay? Find out what your lowest note is as a singer. Apparently mine is G2. Now let's find out what my highest note is. Let's find out what my highest note is. So we're starting from, since we all know what our lowest note is, now let's find out what our highest note is. Remember, start from C5 to C2 to find out what your lowest note is, okay? Like I said, my lowest note is the G2. We just did this thing together right now, so I found out what my lowest note is right now with you guys. Now let's find out what my highest note is. So as I'm finding out mine, you guys should also find out yours. So let's start from the C3 to E6 just to find out what her highest note is, okay? So let's go C3, 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 C3. Okay, C3 backwards. Yeah, so do. Okay, sorry. Do, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Okay, I just found out that my highest note is the C5, so I just wrote that down. I couldn't hit the D5 where like I'll be screaming. I sounded like a bitch. So my highest note is the C5. So but you guys could keep on going. Okay, let's start again. Sorry, we started from C3, yeah? Yeah, we started from C3. Yeah, we started from C3. We're going from C3 to E6. So let's do that again. C3 to E6. For me, that's my highest. You girls can keep on going. You girls can keep on going. Okay, so we moved from what's it called? We moved from C3 to E6. Okay, so we moved from C3 to E6. Now, what we did now is to find out what our highest note is. So progress from C3 to E6. Keep on doing do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. So you find out what your highest or what your lowest note is. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Just keep on moving around the octave so you find out what your highest note is, okay? So move from the C3 to the E6 and find out the notes you could hit comfortably, which was your highest. Okay, like myself, my highest was my highest that I couldn't exceed C5. Okay, and the lowest I could reach was the G2. Okay, that was my highest. That was my highest, and that was my lowest. Okay, so I have a vocal range of the G2 to C5. Okay, I have a vocal range of G2 to C5. G2 is my lowest note, and the C5 is my highest note. Okay, so find out what your lowest note is, starting from the to find out your lowest notes, you could start from the C5, go down to the C2 to find out what your lowest note is for a guy and for a girl. Okay, now to find out what your highest note is, you could start from the C3, both for the guys and both for the girls. Start from the C3 and go up to the E6. Okay, start from the C3 to go and go up to the E6 to find out what your highest note is. So keep on moving, C3, keep on going up like that, till you find out the highest notes you can hit as a singer. What is the highest notes you can hit till you get to E6? And if you can actually exceed E6, my dear, keep on going till you find out what your highest note is. If you can exceed E6, go to F6, G6, A6, B6, C7, D7. If you can keep on going, if you can actually hit those notes, keep on going there. Find out what your highest note is. Basically, mine was the C5. Okay, if you're a guy and you can actually exceed the C5, that's amazing. Just find out what your highest note is and find out what your lowest note is. Okay, just find those two things out for me. I hope this thing is clear enough to every single person. Alright, thank you guys so much. Thank you guys so much. So I think I need to stop the video now. Yeah.